2023, I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting. Before we go any further, I would like City Manager Kirk Biotti to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With your indulgence, I'd like to bring forward from unfinished business item 22B, which is lease agreement between the City of Laconia, Laconia Airport Authority, and Poppy's Choice LLC, having a principal place of business at 15 Airport Road, Guilford, New Hampshire. That item is on the table and would require a motion to take it off the table.
Motion.
So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor
Seconded.
Councilor Haynes. Marv is here. Marv Everson from the airport. Would you come up? There were some questions that were raised at the last meeting. Perhaps you would be in the best position to answer those questions. Let me just get the right paperwork here.
22B. Page 21?
Did they vote?
22B.
22B.
Yep, page 21.
No.
Oh, thank you.
22.
22B is
Yeah,
on page
21, yeah.
Roll call for us.
Oh, would you like a roll? All those in favor of taking it off the table, we should have a roll call. Oh, did they say aye?
Aye.
Wasn't right. Anyone opposed? Seeing none. 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. This item is off the table. So the initial concern of the council was the term of this lease agreement, as well as the period in which to renegotiate any lease terms. So I'm wondering if you could just introduce yourself, Marv, and just go through what is typical of leases at the Airport Authority.
Yeah, I'm Marv Everson. I'm the airport manager at LCI, Laconia Airport. The question apparently was raised regarding the length of the term of the lease. Typically recommended by the FAA for any hangar leases, it's 40 years, sometimes as much as 60-year lease. We tend to set ours up for 40 years unless the hangar owner requests something differently, which we will accommodate. But at the halfway mark of whatever the lease term is, we have set up a period to review that lease agreement, or the lease rate, most importantly. If it has gotten out of hand over that 20-year period in a 40-year lease, we renegotiate it, come to an agreement, and usually lower it to whatever the airport and the hangar owner agrees on. So that's the 20-year midpoint on a typical 40-year lease.
So, Mark, this is for what was known as Kitchen Cravings
Yes,
on Route 11,
it's on Airport Road, right off
Airport
of-
Road, and what's the front of it, the back of it, though, that's on 11,
It's Airport, or Route 11.
Route 11, right,
Route
Route
11.
11 and Airport Road.
Yes,
this
directly
is-
across from Bank of New Hampshire, their main headquarters.
So this building has been empty for how long?
Now it's been empty for approximately a full year, unopened. The previous owner, as trying to run a restaurant, had difficulty staffing it, and she was not able to, in the last summer season, open and run her operations. So she chose not to and put it up for sale.
Okay. That being the lease, not the land, because they don't own the land.
That, we own the land,
Right.
the
Airport
city
Authority
owns the
owns it.
land.
Yes.
Yep.
Counselor Susie.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mark, this is not a hangar then?
No.
Okay,
This,
so-
in this case, it's not a hangar, but we still run with the typical or the boilerplate lease.
I just think 40 years is way too long for a restaurant business, so if they should not make it like the previous ownership did, they still have that same lease
Yet the
for 40
previous,
years, so they can sell it to somebody else.
yeah, that they can sell the property to someone else, or, well, it would be their responsibility. If they were not able to meet their annual lease payment over a period of time, the airport would take it over, take the building, the property, become owner of that property, which we don't want to do. So we were able to work with the previous owner for as long as needed. She was able to pay her lease and then was able to find a buyer.
So, and here it says the fiscal impact is $7,870. That's the annual lease revenue you will get, or is that just the first year?
That's the first year's annual lease payment.
And after that, it goes down?
Goes up, well, it depends on what the CPI does, the December CPI index. Typically, it goes up. Since I have been there, it hasn't come down. So it increases usually 0.4, maybe as high as 1.4, but that's typical.
Because the airport owns the land, how about the building?
We do not own the building.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions for the airport manager? Seeing none, thank you, Marv. So the items off the table, right now be looking for a move to approve the authorization for Andrew J. Hosmer as mayor or Kirk Beatty as city manager to sign the lease agreement for Poppy's Choice LLC for the building located at 15 Airport Road, Guilford, New Hampshire, on Laconia Municipal Airport property as presented. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion?
I think it's incredibly sweetheart lease
Yeah.
agreement, honestly, but I respect the airport authority's view of the entirety of it, so I'll support it.
Seeing no questions, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. For opposed, no opposed, that's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes.
You're right there, it's a real sweetheart.
Getting back to the first page of our agenda, first thing we have is a council proclamation for May 2023. It's a mental health month, and I don't know if there's anyone here from Lakes Region Mental Health Center. Are you here for the proclamation? Okay. All right. Well, we have a proclamation here. I will read it, so bear with me just a bit. It's not too bad. It's actually pretty good. May is Mental Health Month 2023. Whereas the area that someone lives in plays a significant role in their overall health and well-being, and whereas surroundings can and do impact how a person's needs are met, which in turn affects mental health, and whereas having safe, stable, and healthy home conditions set the foundation for achieving and maintaining good mental health, and whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizens share the consequences of mental health programs, have the responsibility to promote mental health wellness, and to promote prevention efforts. Now, therefore, I, Andrew J. Hosmer, Mayor of the City of Laconia, New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Mental Health Month in Laconia, New Hampshire. As a mayor of Laconia, I also call upon the citizens and the government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Laconia to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the need for community education so that citizens can take steps to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions. Given under my hand and seal of the City of Laconia, New Hampshire, this first day of May, actually it's the 8th right now, in the year of our Lord, 2023. So that will conclude the proclamation, and thank you to all that have committed their professions to mental health of our community. Moving on to item number 7. This is the acceptance of minutes from previous meetings. Minutes of the regular city council meeting of April 24th were distributed to the city council on April 27th, 2023, with no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk. The minutes will be accepted as distributed. We have no consent and action items this evening. Item number 9, citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. If there are citizens here who would like to speak to matters not on the agenda, please step right up, introduce or reintroduce yourself.
Good
And
evening.
we'll try and stick to the 3-minute limit, so go right ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. My name's Steve Bogert. I live on Spruce Street, 21 Spruce Street. I've lived there for 20 years. And most of you should know why we're here. I brought a lot of my neighbors this time to help express our concerns, our deepest concerns. The events of the last couple of weeks has triggered more concern for the safety of our neighborhood. And with that being said, the police are doing the best they can with the situation, but without any end game in place, that is stretching their limits of what they're able to do. And we do need to bring this to a conclusion. In the last 2 weeks, we've had an unfortunate where someone passed away in the woods. I went away on vacation, come back. My propane tank, which doesn't seem like much to anybody, was taken. My next door neighbor's propane tank was taken. The reason why I say it doesn't sound like much, but the problem is if these people are coming this close to the house, their next step is in the house. It's not if, it's only a matter of when this section's gonna happen. I've witnessed and sent a message to the police department. There was a person on a bicycle in front of my neighbor's house smoking a pipe. Wasn't a tobacco pipe. A couple days earlier, there was 2 homeless men fighting in the street in front of a neighbor's house who has kids. Saturday, we had a homeless woman get beat up in the woods. We had to call the police because she came out not knowing what to do. We're not knowing what to do. So these kinds of events, this situation is not turning out for anybody's benefit. Yes, it's a difficult situation, and I feel for you having to make these kinds of decisions. It's tough, but our neighborhood has taken the blunt of this for over 3 years. And I think on behalf of the neighborhood, they're all tired. From the morning, from sunrise to, I want to say sunset, but well into the night. They come, they go, they leave their trash. It's an expense on the city because the city has to come up there, I do believe, about 2 times a week. They empty the trash that's left, the empty shopping carts, all the stuff that's there. On the news tonight, they have chickens in cages up there. I see today they're hauling up lumber into the woods. It's got to stop. Please help us. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. I will let the audience know I do tend to address this, which is on the next item. Oh, sure, it's a little bit. They're under mayor's comments a little later on this evening, so.
Hi, Christina Bover from 15 Spruce Street, and I've lived at that residence for 37 years. I moved in, and it was a quiet, dead-end street. A nice neighborhood, a lot of camaraderie. We had the Christmas light parties and things like that on the street. These are things we're not going to be able to do anymore because we have the homeless and we had them all winter long too. And since spring has hit, it's quadrupled with the number of people going by my house every day. A neighbor texted me, "Are you at home?" I said, "Yes. I had a package just dropped off on my porch. Can you pick it up so it doesn't get stolen?" Well, you know, I fear for my packages being stolen too, and I don't have the key video recordings on my house. I don't know when my packages arrive, except for when I finally get a text, and that's when I in turn called my neighbor back and said, "I'm in Connecticut, can you go get my package? There wasn't supposed to be anything delivered while I was away." So the theft is going on. I have a young neighbor who goes to high school and walks, and you know, she lives near the end of the street towards the woods, and she's very concerned about her safety and has talked with me because I've picked her up for rides to school. And yes, they're hauling by the droves stuff up into the woods. We've had a fire up there, and there's propane tanks up there. There's, what do you call them? Anyway, to cook on. Stoves up there. There's leaves up there. So there's a concern of a big fire happening. And anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you for yours. Hello.
Hello, Mayor, Council, people of the audience. I'm here on a twofold support for those on Spruce Street.
Can you hold on 1 second and introduce yourself, please?
Carl Dodge,
Thank you.
Baldwin Street.
Thank you. Great.
I'm in support, as I say, of the people on Spruce Street, but it's not just there. In the past few months, I've had neighbors call me, "Carl, are you home?" "No, I'm at work." "Well, we're seeing red lights on your porch." I said, "Would you go check?" A young lady was sleeping, curled up on the couch in the enclosed porch. The gentleman that went to the house and checked for me found a young man sleeping on the hammock that was at the other end of the porch. Well, the young lady seemed to have some mental disability problems. She broke open some of the packages that were on the porch while we're doing some work inside. She managed to rip up several packages of baseball cards that belonged to my son, and then she got into the record collection and broke up multiple LP albums that were not replaceable. So, in support of what's going on, yes, please, we need to do something, and we need to do it quickly, because it's getting worse. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erica Gray, and I live at 41 Spruce Street. And I apologize, I know that a lot of us are speaking on this particular issue, but we had a total loss house fire December 21st, 2023, and we only recently moved back into the rebuilt house a couple months ago. And it's really, really anxiety-inducing to know that they are setting things on fire in the woods directly beside our house, because ours is the last one on the road closest to where they are. We still have a lot of trauma regarding fire in our household, and we want to know what we can do if we know there's a fire. I'm assuming that that's not allowed, and should we call the police if we know that they are having a fire? I guess my biggest concern would be, my idea would be that if we were to open a shelter, that it would be something that this might be controversial, but not have sobriety required, but maybe community service required, so that they're returning something to the community, and offer them roads to sobriety. But I guess the main thing would be, where would this be? How would it be funded? Because obviously this does need to be addressed. But as for the fire, we definitely can't have our house catch on fire again. We just moved back in, so that's all. Thank you.
I'm familiar with your place. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm glad.
Thank you.
And certainly appreciate where you're coming from.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Hi, I'm Shayna Hughes. I live at 35 Spruce Street, and I have 3 children who like to play outside and who are becoming more and more, they're very innocent. So when a stranger comes up to them and talks to them while I'm there, or comes up to me and tries to take my baby because she wants to say hi and talk to my baby, who is right back there and 6 months old, my children say, well, they're very nice. We can talk to them. It's very nice. And I feel like this is an issue that I have been very understanding about, because I understand addiction and mental health probably more than most people in this room. However, I have seen an increasing number of people who do not want to accept help, and I don't know what avenues we're supposed to take for those people, because some of our services are certainly tied up. We certainly have a long wait list for affordable housing. We certainly have residential treatment centers that have long wait lists, but we have also attempted other avenues from my understanding, and there are people who do not want to take it. And I am sure that you are just as perplexed as I am as to what to do about that, because obviously relocating everybody is not going to solve the issue, but if people aren't willing to accept help, what steps can we take in order to provide a safer community for everybody? I've had groups of men stop me and ask if they can hook up electricity to my house. I've had multiple incidences where I'm starting to get scared to go to sleep at night. I don't know how to teach my kids how to be kind, but also to not speak to people, and I don't want them to live in fear, but at the same time, this is a nationwide issue, but we do have the power to change that. I know that city ordinances being changed would certainly help provide more affordable housing for those who do want it. But I think a huge issue that I'm finally realizing is there are a massive amount of people who do not want to accept help, and I'm not sure what we're supposed to do about that. And thank you for your time, as obviously this is a very large issue, and I really appreciate all of you working tirelessly to figure out what the right solution is to this. So thank you.
Thank you for speaking. Anyone else like to address the current topic or anything else that's on the agenda?
Hi, I'm Christine Stewart. I live at 31 Edward Street, and I've been in that residential neighborhood for 20 years. And when I bought that house, I thought I was, on a nice dead-end street in a nice neighborhood living the American dream. And it is currently turning into a nightmare. And it's been very difficult to be part of this wonderful community who has been known for our Christmas open houses, to now, when people ask, oh, where do you live? They ask, how are you dealing with the homeless situation? And I tell them it's a problem, and it is very, very stressful for us, and it's getting worse. I can't walk our dog up and down Spruce Street. There's litter, paraphernalia, things that I don't know what they are. It is not safe hours of the day and night. I can't sit on my porch. I enjoy sitting there, reading my paper, having my lemonade, and the continuous parade of characters coming and staggering up and down the road is really incredible. I should not have to be harassed to ask for a cigarette, a light, some cash, some water. It's just not safe in the same home that I've lived in for 20-something years. And I know it's not unique to the state, and it's something that is getting bigger and bigger every day, and there are more of them in the woods than there are us in the neighborhood. And something needs to be done. Since the cold shelters have closed, the increase in traffic has been incredible, and it's only going to get worse. And the fighting and the fire and the aid and that unfortunate situation is just the beginning. And I appreciate you listening to us and trying to come up with a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Hi.
evening.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Judith Wright. I'm the Unitarian Universalist minister here in Laconia. I'm not speaking for my congregation. I'm speaking for myself as a citizen. I'm also on the executive committee of the Mental Health Board, and I'm also a member of the Human Relations Committee here in Laconia. This is not a simple issue, and I'm so saddened to hear everybody's story here tonight from all of you, and it deeply saddens me. This is an issue that just won't easily go away. I don't think the primary cause are mental health issues nor drug or alcohol issues, but I think they are factors that are part of this. The main factor is the dire shortage of housing that almost guarantees that some people will be homeless, not only in Laconia but across our nation. There is a failure to build into the infrastructure of enough housing to make our economy work well. I hear this on the Mental Health Board, where they can't get people to come here because they can't afford to find a place to live, to serve the people that need the help here in Laconia. I just want to share with you quickly just two experiences I've had with the homeless as a minister since I've been here. First was a woman who had serious health issues, who was an intelligent, not mentally ill, and not using any drugs or alcohol. Because of her ill health, she could not afford her rent. And she worked 20 hours a week as an aide at a nursing home, but not enough to pay for her rent. Gaining her trust took some time, but eventually we were able to help her move out of her car and into an apartment. She became a member of our congregation, and we grew to love her, but sadly she died suddenly because of her health issues. Being homeless impacts your health in very terrible ways. And second, we are as a congregation about to lose a beloved member of our congregation who worked her entire life as an elementary school teacher, and she can no longer afford her rent here in Laconia and is having to move away. Laconia is losing one of their very best citizens because she can't afford her rent. I believe the main culprit for homelessness is the housing crisis. And this is where I hope we put our efforts in the future. We must face as a community the imperative need to build affordable housing. And in the interim, we could provide rental assistance to those in need, or some time of temporary housing, such as we did in Northborough, my previous community. I lived in Northborough, Massachusetts, where we gave people vouchers to be in motels when they had no place to live. My congregation has been central in the establishment of the Belknap House here in Laconia, which is solely for homeless families. It's the people who come to me who are homeless are usually adults who don't have children. And I see them every week, they come to me. This is a good model that Belknap has for helping to help the homeless recover from being homeless, because they spend maybe 9 to 12 months there, and then they help them transition out of homelessness into apartments or someplace else. Most importantly, I think it's vital that we do not dehumanize those who have no housing. This is not a simple problem, but a complex one, requiring compassion and caring for those in such dire straits. This issue also requires engaged citizens coming together to discern how best to lessen this problem here in Laconia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Wright. Anyone else like to speak to matters not on the agenda this evening? I see a couple of people looking at each other like, who's going to get up first? Is that what's going on there? It's okay, you can come up. All right. No one else would like to speak? Thank you all for taking the time to voice your concerns and your experiences. Moving along to item number 13 under public hearings. Item number 13A, which is, excuse me, public hearing for resolution 2023-12 relative to acceptance of an award in the amount of $82,500 from the Homeland Security Grant Program for cybersecurity equipment. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the April 26, 2023 edition of Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business later on this evening. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:31 p.m. If anyone would like to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time to come up and speak. Seeing no one has decided to speak on that matter, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:32 p.m. There are no presentations this evening. Moving on to item number 15, which is the mayor's report. I will concentrate my remarks this evening to the issue raised at during the public input portion, that of the encampment on Spruce Street and area. I am very sorry that those of you who call that area home are having the experiences that you do. Certainly that's the one spot we all want to feel safe, be able to relax, find some comfort, enjoy our family, just just have quiet enjoyment on our property. And clearly this is an issue that is come to the surface. The encampment is in fact growing. In response to this, and in working with our city manager and our police chief here, and the Community Action Program of Belknap and Merrimack counties, also with the assistance of Director Santinello at DHHS, we've been able to put together a plan for some action that we'll take in Spruce Street, starting on either the evening of May 17th or the morning of May 18th. They'll be dropped off a 30-yard dumpster at the end of Spruce Street. It's not permanent. It is something that will receive all of the debris and any waste that has accumulated, and we know there's a significant amount in the wooded area and in the encampment area. We have teams of people who are going into that property and going to clean it out. That's no small task, as you all who've seen it from afar or either up close realize. We have made efforts and will continue to make efforts over the next couple of weeks to ensure that personal belongings like identification cards or maybe personal mementos are not thrown away. Clearly, there's a lot of trash there that needs to be picked up and disposed of. But there may in fact be things there that have significant value to someone who is experiencing homelessness, something that they need maybe to receive services or to gain entrance to a bus. And we want to make sure that when these people are asked to move on from that area, that's done so with dignity and care for individuals. So the trash and any hazardous material will be picked up and hauled away over the course of the next few days, 18th, 19th. And it is our goal the week of the 21st to move out all of the people currently camped in that area. This is a very difficult decision and a very difficult process. Certainly listening to all of you this evening, it's another layer of complexity because you don't deserve to have the experiences that you're having right now. I'm not convinced that all the people there are bad. I don't believe that they are. I believe that some of them are struggling with various issues, but clearly they're on public land right now. It was never a permanent solution for their housing situation. But we also have to realize when they move from that area, they're going to mostly move to someplace else in the city. So as Chief Canfield once put it, it's like squeezing a balloon, and that's the challenge for all of us. We have tried to coordinate with outreach, as I said, with the CAP agencies to make sure that those that are willing to take some direction and receive some services have the professional assistance to navigate, which sometimes can be a very complex network, to get them to the place they want to go. It's certainly our goal to see no homelessness in this area. It is my goal personally to see people experiencing homelessness to move from that to a stable housing environment, whatever that may look like. It's certainly a tall task. But I know the city of Laconia is not unique either in this state, in this region, this country, or even in this world. This is something that's going on worldwide right now, and it's exploding in numbers. I've made a fair number of visits to that encampment just to see it firsthand and try and get a better understanding of why people are there, where they came from, what obstacles they're encountering. And as Reverend Wright put, this is a complex situation that really demands many different solutions, because there is no one solution to this. But I think all of you on Spruce Street and in the surrounding neighborhoods deserve to have quiet enjoyment of your property. I believe you should be able to go to sleep at night and rest very comfortably that you're going to be safe and that no one's going to be stealing something from you. I believe those that use the WOW Trail, whether it's walking to get to work, whether it's walking for enjoyment, riding a bike, taking their family or loved ones there, have a right to use the WOW Trail and feel safe. We have a real problem, but this homelessness problem is really the tip of the iceberg. It is the visible manifestation of so many aspects of our society that just are falling behind, whether it's substance use disorder, mental illness, whether it's a growing wage gap, not enough affordable housing. It all manifests itself, and here it is in the city of Laconia. So I value and appreciate your patience as the city tries to take on what's going on at the end of Spruce Street there. And I want to let people know who are experiencing homelessness. It's not because we're angry at you or look down on you and think any less of you. But at some point, the city has an obligation to take some action. I have no doubt that all of the agencies from within this city and statewide agencies will deal with these people that they encounter in a respectful, civil manner. And I ask for your patience going forward. And I encourage you to come back as well, because you should have an opportunity to speak to us and tell us what's going on. And also come and make suggestions about what we could do to make it better. That would conclude my remarks on that matter right now. And I would encourage you, with those of you with concerns, ideas, frustrations, contact me either through my email on the city website, through the city manager's office. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So I'd like to continue on with the agenda and move on to item number 16, which is council comments. I'd look to councilors if you have any comments you'd like to make.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Councilor Haynes.
Oh, I do. I would just like to point out to Councilor Cheney that, and the council in general, that please go by O-Pee-Chee Cove. It's all been cleaned out. It's all been raked. 3 beautiful trees were planted on Arbor Day, and it looks fantastic. Parks and Recreation should be congratulated that it looks absolutely beautiful, and they did a nice job.
Good.
Thank you, Counselor Haynes. Counselor Felch, you have something?
Yeah, sure.
Leaning into the microphone.
Sure. Later on in the agenda, we have the street down on Jefferson Street, which actually on the tax map, it's not even on there. But one of the things that it brought to my attention is there's a street that used to be, it was laid out as Durkee Street that runs alongside of Cafe Deja Vu and then over to Keys Court. The owner of Cafe Deja Vu and a lot of that property around there has been trying to get that
Paper Street.
released, since it's part of her parking lot and that area. And also, there's a lot of other paper streets in Laconia that I'd like to see given to property owners that abut it and get it back on the tax roll. All these paper streets aren't taxed, and there's a lot of them in Laconia. So hopefully, I've mentioned it to the city manager already, that hopefully we can work on some of these, specifically that one.
Yep, so our first step would be to identify which ones they are, like we're doing tonight. They'll come in front of you. You guys agree, yeah, we can move on to that process from that point, depending on if we've accepted it at one point or haven't accepted it. It's a relatively easy process, as you'll see tonight through the Jefferson Street. So we can work on identifying those, and we'll add this one to the list.
Thank you, Counselor Felch. Thank you, City Manager. Counselor Cheney, why don't we just dive right in? I can only avoid it for so long.
I won't be more than an hour, Mr. Mayor, I promise. I've spoken to the Public Works Director, and I'm hoping, maybe not tonight, but sometime in the not-too-distant future, we can learn the status of Layton Avenue North. I'm not sure whether it's a public street or about to be or whatever, but on that street, there are a few catch basins and culverts that need review and in some cases repair. The Public Works Director tells me that some of the driveways that don't have culverts, one or more, are driveways that were put in without permits. And I know he's making an effort to solve that problem. I encourage him and the city to renew their efforts in that area. I want to tell the council that it is my intent to offer an amendment to the short-term rental ordinance, or whatever it's called. Right now, the ordinance says you must live in the house 150 days, and that you can rent it out, I guess, 365 days, but you have to live there 150 days. I'd like to see that number pushed up to 220 days, which is 2/3 of a year. Means you can still go to Florida, but you got to be here most of the time. Almost every complaint I've received, and I suspect others have, about short-term rentals are people who live in Nashua or out of state and lease their property here, buy the property, and then lease it for short-term rental purposes. So I'd like to see the ordinance, and I will make an effort to recommend to the council an ordinance that increases the requirement for residency to 220 days. I also want to suggest that the planning department add a provision where when the person comes in for a permit, all the facts they give about where they live and how much they're here and whatever are signed for under the penalty of perjury. Because I've seen more than a few recently. In my ward, there appears to be several houses that qualify for this problem, where there's 4, 5, 6 cars in the yard, and the owner has never been seen by the neighbors. hoping the Public Works Director can give us an update on the sewer inspection issue. I know he's reported in the past.
Can you hold on for 1 second to something from Council
Just,
Whitman?
just on the short-term rental, I observed that there was a court decision affecting Conway, and I think we ought to, before we propose new changes, we ought to get an assessment of, I'm not sure that decision went the way we would want it to go, and so I
I'm
think.
happy to,
Yeah, so we ought to, I think, understand what, Portsmouth got the decision where we wanted it to go. This one's going in the other direction. I think we just, before we propose any changes, just to make sure we're not doing something that ends up undermining our position.
Nope, that's fine.
I presume the manager will do that.
Yep.
I mentioned the sewer inspection issue I'm hoping to hear about. I think I've heard privately, but I'd like the council to hear more about the Elm Street School project and how it's progressing. When I refer to that, I mean getting the cars off of Elm Street onto one of the side roads to get the kids. I know couldn't do anything during the winter. I know that the manager and the city have made an effort, and I think gotten permission from one of the landowners to give us a right-of-way over their property.
It's on the agenda.
And I'm happy about that, but I'd like to know where we're at and a time frame.
It's on the agenda.
What's that?
It's on the agenda.
Good to hear. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
5 minutes and 14 seconds, not bad.
Oh, wait a minute, I must have more.
Just in going back to regulation of short-term rental businesses, item 17C, Roman 4, under government relations and ordinances, I mean, it seems like once we complete our due diligence, we go back to that committee for your suggested amendments.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other council comments? How about liaison reports? All right, so move on to item number 19, which is citizens' request to comment on current agenda items. Current agenda items that someone would like to speak towards? Seeing none, we'll move right on to item number 20, which is city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight's your financial and operational trends. It's not listed on your first section, but our current building permits are at $4 million, which equalizes out to about what we were at last year at this time. The fire numbers are staying steady. Public assistance data, as you see, another relatively high month for our public assistance. Once we factor in our reimbursements, we are within our budget where we would want to be for this year. So we can't certainly go too many months with those high numbers, but we're managing okay for the end of this fiscal year. Police department activities are at where they normally are. Property tax collection did well this, we're high percentage collected. We're almost completed with that. Motor vehicle registration is right on par with where we should be this time of year with the budget. On the overtime, we don't always talk a lot about this. We are seeing some of the numbers, especially in fire this month, decrease, and that comes down to that they're fully staffed. And I think we're gonna start to see this balance out. They're currently fully staffed. They do have a vacancy coming up. Same thing with police department, but, so, as we always say, it usually does equalize out, and it's showing to now when they do have their staffing where it should be. Next page, Parks and Recreation, no changes there, no grievances. Impact fees, we talked about this last month, I'll just mention it again. I have worked with each of the departments on their impact fees to make sure that it's not just money that's sitting there, that we're using it, whether we factored it into some budget numbers for next year's fiscal year, which we'll take a look at it again as we move forward, as another place to look into, or to make sure that they have it earmarked for money. And many of these do have projects that are planned, and then we'll be spending this money. No real changes with the trust balances. I do not have the code statistics for this month. We will get that, and I'll do a double month, next month on those. Still waiting for boat taxes to start to come up a little bit. We're down a little bit below where we should, but we're coming into the warmer months, so we should see those numbers increase. We're not too far off where we were percentage-wise last year. General fund and revenue, the revenue and expenditures are in good positions. Finance Director Smith did run a bigger expenditure of where we stand at this point this year, and compared it to last year, and we're looking good. I've met with department heads on some of their end of the year stuff, and we'll continue to do that as we get into the last couple months of the season. And the last piece, next to last piece is the EMS billing. Looking at last year, we're actually identical to where we were last year at this time, so as far as the gross revenue charges, so that was good. It's nice to see a consistent year to year. And lastly, our winter maintenance budget. You can see the winter maintenance overtime was down a little bit, but our overspent rather. But our winter maintenance and our outside contracts, we stayed under budget. That's all I have for you this time.
Winter maintenance, we're over, aren't we? We budgeted 60,000, expended 74.
Yeah, the overtime.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you, Kirk. Any questions of the city manager? Councilor Haynes.
Thank you, Mayor. Kurt, do we have any outcome or anything as far as Country Club Road, as far as code?
Yes. So we're close on that. We've gone through our legal due diligence that we've had to do. And we actually have a meeting tomorrow afternoon with our lawyer to make sure we take our next step. It's something that I've put on the planning department to make it rapid and get this moved on. So I think we'll see resolution very quickly.
Just a quick follow-up, if I may, ma'am. Do we have somebody that actually visually goes out on the road and just patrols a sector of the city to just see what's going on? I just get, I'm sorry but I just get every time a complaint about used cars, about, you name it, and they're complaining about, and if you go and look, it's legit.
Yeah, no, our housing inspector, which is more, he does a lot of property maintenance, is more going out and doing reactionary to complaints. Certainly all the department heads and all the departments know that if they see something, to bring it forward. I go out, I'm out all the time. If I see something, we bring it forward. We try to make his resolution as quickly as we can. But I won't say we're necessarily looking for it, but if we see it, we try to address it right away.
Just a quick comment. It's not meant to be an editorial, but, I was just kind of flabbergasted that nobody saw this until a concerned citizen said, "What are you doing about it?"
It was something that they were working on for a little while in planning. We stepped it up though, and over the last couple weeks and we'll get a resolution to it quickly.
Okay, all right. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions from the city manager? Seeing none? Let's move on to item number 21, which is new business. Item 21A, discontinuance of Paper Street, Jefferson Street. Town of Guilford accepted Jefferson Street prior to the creation of Laconia. I think it was 1848. Is that right? Is it 1848?
Yep.
It is 1848. Yes, that's for sure. The section of Jefferson Street shown in the blue box, which is attached to your packet, although accepted by the Town of Guilford, was never constructed. A request has been received from Paugus Properties LLC that the City of Laconia discontinue this section of Jefferson Street. If the city is interested in supporting Paugus Properties' request, city staff will begin the process necessary to discontinue the road under RSA 231:43. This process includes researching the form of street acceptance used by the Town of Guilford and a public hearing with notification of abutters a minimum of 16 days before the public hearing. All actions will be coordinated with the city attorney to ensure proper procedures are being followed. That was submitted by Wes Anderson. Go right ahead, Councilor Lippman.
So I think Councilor Felch talked about putting something on the tax rolls. I didn't hear that part of the request in terms of, in this particular situation, how that would end up happening, and maybe you know something about it.
So with this street itself, actually it was an accepted street versus a paper street that was gonna be done on the tax map. Is actually part of that property. So it actually is being taxed from what I can see according to the tax map. The only question I had about that was there's two properties that abut that property that are vacant right now. How do they end up getting to their property if we do away with that possible street?
It's more complicated than that because there are two paper streets that the city never accepted that come off of Massachusetts and go into that same area. It just so happened that Guilford's accepted the one that went from basically Dell toward the railroad tracks. But it was accepted via layout and return, which basically means we don't own the underlying ground. So whenever we discontinue it, state law takes effect in regards to who has the property. And then they gotta take action to claim it to get it onto the tax rolls. Just like all the paper streets that we've never accepted, they're not on the tax rolls. We have no authorization to it. If the two adjoining property owners don't claim them, they just sit there. So 99% of the paper streets in the city probably have never been accepted by the city. They're just there. This one happened to be accepted.
Just vacant land.
Just vacant land.
Is there in case of development?
So what's your choice? What would you like to do here?
I guess I heard it's more complex than we understand. I don't think this is enough information to advance it tonight.
I agree with Councilor Lippman.
Yeah, and the problem I saw with it, yeah, there's two paper streets coming in from Mass Ave, but you'd have to use both of them to access those two vacant lots. Whereas you already have an accepted street that you could use to access those two properties.
But we never built it, so that's, right.
Right, but it still could be
Fair.
built.
Right, still could be built.
So Counselor Felch, this is in your ward, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Would you like to sort of take the lead on this and work with Wes in getting additional information so we can come to some decision here as to how we'd like to proceed?
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can sit down, I'd just soon sit down with
Table
you and
this.
Pogus
Yep.
Properties and.
Like a motion to table?
Yes.
Sure.
So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Non-debatable. Is it a roll call or just all in favor?
All in favor.
All in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. If 5 votes in the affirmative, that item is tabled.
Yes. Not that specific item, but the item in general, it seems like there's more information we need to know so that we can make a global policy decision in the
Yep.
context of what
Okay.
Councilor Felch is gonna.
So I can address that with Wes as well.
Terrific. All right, moving on to item number 22 under unfinished business. This is Resolution 2023-12, relative to the acceptance of an award in the amount of $82,500 from the Homeland Security Grant Program for cybersecurity equipment. In 2021, the city applied to the New Hampshire Department of Safety for grant funding to purchase equipment to enhance the city's cybersecurity footprint. Application was prospectively awarded in September 2022. Final approval was granted in December 2022. In early 2023, the grant award was modified to substitute an additional firewall upgrades for previously requested MFA devices. This was done as the state intends to provide MFA devices to local communities under a separate grant program. Acceptance of this award will enhance the city's cybersecurity footprint. At the April 24th, 2023 City Council meeting, a motion was approved to schedule a public hearing. Public hearing was held earlier this evening. The entire cost of this equipment is covered by the 2022 Homeland Security Grant. There is no local match requirement. So right now I'll be looking for a series of 3 motions. The first is to waive a reading of Resolution 2023-12 in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 5 votes in the affirmative. Motion passes. Second, we're looking to move a second reading of Resolution 2023-12 relative to acceptance of an award in the amount of $82,500 from the Homeland Security Grant Program for cybersecurity equipment. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Cheney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. And finally, looking to move to approve a resolution 2023-12 relative to acceptance of an award in the amount of $82,500 from the Homeland Security Grant Program for cybersecurity equipment as presented, and to authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this grant. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please indicate by support by raising your hand. We've got 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Thank you. Item 22B was handled earlier this evening. Moving on to item number 22C. This is ordinance 2023-205-2, naming rights and procedures for city-owned property. Councilor Felch requested that the Government Operations and Ordinances Committee discuss naming privileges for public areas. Pursuant to Councilor Felch's request, the city manager, Beatty, researched several New Hampshire cities to determine how they handle the naming of city buildings, fields, and places other than streets, and presented that information to the Government Operations and Ordinances Committee Subcommittee at the March 27th and April 24th, 2023 meetings. At the April 24th meeting, the subcommittee approved a motion to bring the proposed language to the full city council for a review and to schedule a public hearing. Anything you'd like to add to that, Kirk or Tony? Councilor Felch?
No?
Oh, I'm good.
All right, so we're just scheduling for a public hearing right now.
Correct.
Series of 3 motions. The first one is a move to waive a reading of ordinance 2023-205-2 relative to naming rights and procedures for city-owned property and to read by title only. So made by Councilor Haynes, seconded by Councilor Cheney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Next, we're looking to move a first reading of ordinance 2023-205-2 relative to naming rights and procedures for city-owned property. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Cheney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Finally, looking to move to schedule a public hearing on May 22nd, 2023 during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to any action being taken. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Susie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to item number 22D, which is Elm Street School walking path. Kirk, would you like to take us through this a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, after the presentation last meeting, we met, myself, Superintendent Tucker, Superintendent Champlin, went out, looked at the property again. We've looked at it many, many times. Of course, they've been out meeting with the property owner who this we might need an easement with. The Public Works has gone out and surveyed the area. They've come up, the school has come up with a tentative plan for how they would like to see this built with some rough, little more than rough numbers as far as financials would go. One of the things we talked about while we were out there is how far do we want to go along with this prior to having some type of public hearing where we can get input if this is going to draw a lot of concern from the neighborhood, especially in the Elm Street, Washington Street, Jefferson area. So the request I'm asking for tonight is to have a public hearing, if you so choose, so we know that we're not putting a lot of work into something that is going to be difficult for you, to be approved. And so after talking to the superintendent and Superintendent Champlin, we came up with that it would be good to get this out and find out what the neighborhood thinks of this.
Okay, any questions of the city manager at this point? Go right ahead, Councilor Welch.
Hopefully we can get some type of plans to show the people what we're talking about, what we're gonna do.
Yeah, we'll work on that, and we'll also work with the financial numbers as well for that meeting. Yep.
No, I heard.
Okay, so right now we'll be looking to,
I'm sorry, I'd like to see that before the public hearing, I guess.
sure.
I'm sure it'll be out.
Councilor Cheney, that's all.
Thank you.
Jamming on the brakes. It's okay. So right now, I'll be looking to move to schedule a public hearing on May 22nd, 2023. During the regular city council meeting to gather public input on the Elm Street School walking path prior to any action being taken. So moved by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Felch. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Under item number 22E, which is our flag policy, I know we've been talking about this for a while, and this was just sent out. It was late this afternoon, wasn't it?
I apologize for being so late.
I don't What I'd like to do is move this, if it's okay with the council, to the next meeting, just to give you some time to read through it, disseminate it.
Thank you.
Maybe share it with folks and constituents or what have you, and then let's put it on the agenda next time around.
Right. Is this something that we'll need a public hearing on, or?
Yes, this is not to be voted on, this is more for talking point document.
points
Yep.
and- Okay.
Okay, so that concludes our agenda this evening. I would like to go into non-public session, according to RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2, parentheses, small a, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee
You need a motion, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I just want to let the public know.
I'm leaving.
Get out of here, Charlie.
Or the small a, parentheses, small a, reads, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the investigation of any charges against
Thanks for
him,
coming, Charlie.
unless the employee affected, one, has a right to a meeting, and two, request that meeting to be open, in which case the request shall be granted. When we return from non-public session, it will only be to adjourn the meeting. There'll be no more public, no more public discussion of any other matters. So I'll be looking for a motion to go into non-public, so made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Felch. Take a roll call on this.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes?
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, and we will be going into non-public session at 8:07 PM. Kirk will be stepping out.
Who else steps out?
Where are you going? Good part of the.
Somebody has to take
Nope.
the minutes.
No, this is, talk about me.
Oh, well.
It is.
Shit, you're in
Going to
trouble.
save some money somewhere.
I don't know, do we have to have some, I don't really care, we're talking about